Podcast, where the proof is in the pudding, and this pudding is thick. Hi, girls.
Hello.
Hi. Today we have Ash, Alexxa,
Hello.
Danielle, Rach, and Stephanie, and it's gonna be a good show.
Yeah, it's so fun. But before we start, guys, I found something that I want to read to you because I want your reactions. So according to research inspired by the work of renowned relationship expert Dr. John Gottman and some studies published in Psychology Today, it turns out that women thrive in relationships where they receive at least 47 minutes of undivided attention each day from their partner. And that's not just like laying in bed, like texting and talking. It's like real focus, phone down, eye contact. Like
47
I don't even
minutes.
know if I have 47 minutes to give anybody with no interrupted attention all day.
47 minutes, a long time.
That's what
That's a
women.
lot.
That's
What
what
would you
women
even talk
want.
about for
What do
47
men want?
minutes?
How many minutes do men want?
It didn't say. I don't think they probably want
They
any.
probably don't care.
Well, they didn't
just
vote.
want-
Obviously, they didn't ask any of us because that is way too fucking long.
Imagine talking to us for 47 minutes.
Interview the men.
I mean, 47 minutes is just almost an hour. And like, that's crazy to me. Like, that's wild. I could do with 4 minutes, 4 to 7 minutes, not 47.
I could talk about the same subject for 45 minutes if he would let me, but it never would happen. Like,
What would you
47
talk to him about for 47 minutes?
Just whatever I feel like it.
I would have
Whatever
never
I'm
been
annoyed
talking about for 47 minutes because be talking to a wall. Like, okay, that's normally what happens in my
And
house.
this is every day.
Every day.
I think that's insane.
That's funny.
That's
That's
just
actually-
insane.
I don't even think I get that like in a week.
How do their husbands have 47 minutes to talk to them?
Also, like I can't stare at someone like eye
But
contact
also,
for 40
who does want that is my question.
Someone very insecure.
You know, sometimes
Or-
when they have polls and they're like 25%, I'm like, 25% of what? The 7 people you talk to? Okay.
There
We're
were
on that
actually
page.
only 4 people on
the
this
study.
poll.
And they all worked for the person having that
Yeah.
poll.
I think when you go like on a date night with your husband, then you get that
Yeah,
time.
okay.
And so like I appreciate
Once
that.
a month. Perfect.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah,
daily.
And I
mean,
think that when you go on a date, you put your phone away. Like,
Yeah, like so I
always do my-
appreciate when we're on date night and it's just the two of us and we do have that uninterrupted time. But that's because we're out of the house and we're eating and we're drinking and we're having fun. Like if I'm home, I don't want to just sit there and stare at him. I'm like, okay, I've got to do this and that. Like no, but you can take me out once a week. I think once a week is good for that.
So
Not
you
once
Do you
a day.
actually do
So,
it
but
once
do
a
you
week?
go on a date once a week?
In some way or another. I mean, if we go out with we're out every week at some point. But even if we're going out with friends, I feel like just the Uber ride there or whatever. So that's still, or just when we're getting ready to go
That's
out.
5 minutes.
set the Uber ride to come pick one of us up, and then we hand you a cocktail. So you have,
Okay, fine. Maybe like twice a month.
And do you plan all of these, or does he plan them?
Well, I wish he planned them. I do. He did before we were married.
Oh, so he just.
But you guys, I think that's good. Like when you think about that time, maybe like when you go on vacation, just you and your husband.
That's
But
true.
I'm still on the phone.
I
and
know.
he's on the phone, and
I think 47 minutes a day is just very unrealistic, especially at our stages of life. But I think we're going to get into it today, which I'm like so excited about because we are doing a deep dive into what lights the spark, dulls the shine, and gives us the ick.
We all got some of those.
We do.
sometimes.
Okay, I bet, you know, there
Lots of icks.
lots of icks. We have on Jonathan Van Vegan from at Relationships with Jonathan. He's a couples therapist and a relationship coach. He helps couples feel chosen and cherished before it's too late. So, should we get him on?
Yes.
Get some help?
We need help.
Let's do it.
Come on, Jonathan.
Bring it on.
Welcome to the Pudding Pals Podcast.
Welcome, Jonathan, to the Pudding Pals podcast. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, today on the couch we have Stephanie, Rachel, myself, Danielle, Jordyn, Alexxa, and Ashley. And we can't wait to get into it. We have lots of questions, you know. But I guess the biggest question to start off with, we're all married, we all have kids. Communication obviously plays a big part in our lives, and every day we're all going through stuff, the ups, the downs, and they say like men are from Mars, women are from Venus. And like, where is that disconnect? Because it seems so true. Like I'm on another planet than my husband.
Is it true though? Is it true?
I will have to say, after I had a son, I was like, oh, you're just born this way. I'm sorry.
They are just
It
that
made
way.
me feel a little more
Better?
compassion for my husband. Definitely.
Well, I mean, I think if you just said things your husband liked to hear, then it probably wouldn't be an issue, and then we could wrap up pretty quickly.
Or if they said, well, we want to hear.
Or they said, yeah. The problem is men don't really like to talk. I work with couples. I'm doing this now for 10 years, and trying to drag conversation out of men. If you sit in my chair, you kind of. There are days I literally say to my wife, I promise you I'm not going to work harder in this session than my clients, because you do get tired sometimes trying to when you're dealing with those one-word answers, you tend to kind of lose a little bit of hope and motivation. So I get it. I get where you're coming from. I think on a broader sense though, you can't get locked into one view of what communication looks like. Communication is nonverbal just as much as it is verbal. And so I think women would do better to communicate non-verbally, and men could do better to communicate verbally, for sure.
Yeah, my husband wishes I was nonverbal.
Oh yeah, that is so funny. Jonathan, what is your definition of an actual happy marriage?
Lots of sex, probably.
I'm in a very unhappy marriage, Jonathan. Is that your
Poor
only
Scotty.
definition? We're looking for a little more.
We're looking for a little
He's
more
a man.
depth.
He's giving you a men's definition of a happy marriage.
That would be my husband's definition.
Mine too. Happy marriage.
I kind of see it's just the barometer. It's just the barometer that. So there was a man who passed away a couple years ago. His name was Bob Proctor. He'd been in the personal development space for, I'm going to say 40 years. Is probably more like 60 years, I'd imagine. But he would love to tell you that if you really wanted to see how successful you were in your career, just open your bank account and see how much money's in there. I speak of an intimacy dashboard that I encourage couples to develop. One in which, so for example, I have a minimum 14 kisses a week and sex 3-4 times a week. These are numbers that but these are fixed numbers that I can look back on my calendar. I can say we had sex that day. I know every single day in the morning, my wife comes to me, gives me a kiss first thing in the morning and a hug, and I give her a kiss and a hug before I go to bed. And so that intimacy dashboard that I speak of is an extremely quick way to determine the level of connection in your relationship. And it's not just to mean that sex is the only, the only way that you would measure happiness in a relationship, but it tells a tale. It tells you how connected emotionally two people are, because a woman wants emotional connection to be intimate, and a man tends to get emotionally connected once he's intimate. So when I could tell you, virtually from most couples that I work with, the ones that have that sexual intercourse on a regular basis are going to be the ones that have the best communication. The danger zones when you're having sex every other week, once a month, then we get into the danger zones.
Were you and your wife always like that, or is this something you had to create? What happens if a couple, isn't like that, or you have
How can you change?
yeah, how can you change? Do you actually make a schedule?
And does that make it not sexy? Because that kind of reminds me of when I used to be like, Barry, I'm ovulating. Come on.
No, I mean, we back in the early days when we were courting, it was 3 times a day for the first 6 months. And
3 times a day.
Well, remember when we were young?
And I was never doing it.
Raw dog at that point.
Agreed. Yeah.
But then when we had kids, we went through a phase where it was twice a week, and I'm really getting way over personal here, but interestingly enough, now that the kids are older, it's actually grown. It's leveled off at a really good number, and I mean, I would say partially I'm physically healthy. I think a lot of struggle with couples comes from and I get lambasted on Instagram for this, but I write posts about how to get your partner to want to have sex more, and the women that read my posts tend to think that I'm speaking on behalf of the men, It's actually the opposite. I'm actually speaking on behalf of the women and the countless women that reach out to me that say my husband, doesn't want to, can't be intimate, doesn't want intimacy, and it's really heartbreaking. And I think a lot of that from a man's perspective is he's really got to take care of his health, his physical health. And so, yeah, like how you cultivate that, you pick a partnership or a roommateship. Like you kind of have to pick one or the other. And personally, if I wanted a roommate, you could go get one, but I don't know how much fun that is, right? So, but I absolutely believe that when you have two willing customers, two people that are saying, we want to make this better, we want to connect, I believe that you'll find a way. But you're going to have to explore a number of different things. Women have issues too. Women have issues with perimenopause, with desire, with drive and whatnot. There's no silver bullet. And anyone that tells you does is, selling you snake oil. It's gonna be a combination of a number of things.
Let me ask you, going along with that. So meeting each other's desires and needs, how often do you think couples should check in with each other, whether it be about their emotional needs being met, their sexual needs being met, or just overall happiness in your marriage? Like, what is a healthy amount of times to ask without nagging too?
Yeah, it's a really good question. You could check in daily, but it's just, you got to not check in based on needs. Like my advice for the six of you and all your listeners would be to really remove the word need from any conversation with your spouse. And I think it's that word in and of itself that destroys the actual check-in itself. It basically puts it under a cloud of darkness. And the reason being is that why would someone need to check in about their needs? Well, the only reason why you check in about your needs is because your wants have been conditioned out of you. And so that you no longer feel like you can just ask for what you want, you somehow needed to elevate it to this point of, I just want this. So when I work with couples, if I hear someone using the word just a lot, that's already a sign to me that they're somewhat unfulfilled. Then what happens is after they get tired of saying, I just want you to do this, I just want you to do that, then they'll convert those words just want, they'll convert them to need. I need you to do this, I need you to do that. And now think of it, if you're in a marriage or in a relationship where you have to elevate your desires and your wants to the point of being a need, then there's already a breakdown. And what you do well is to say, hey, let's get rid of the word need, let's get rid of the word just want, and let's just simply show up and ask each other for what we want. The thing is, I instruct couples all the time, someone is only gonna ask you for what they want if they feel that request is gonna fall on open ears. And so the only acceptable answer that you could give someone when they're asking for something that they want is, how can I help you get that? Now, if your partner's not saying those words, how can I help you get what you want? Then they're probably filled with resentment, pain, and whatnot. So you got to break that down and explore it. But long story short, if you're asking for what you want and your partner wants to give you what you want, then you could check in every day.
My husband would ask for what he wants every night, and I don't know that every night he can have it. A lot, but not every night.
You said that now your kids are grown up. We are a group of moms with still very young children, a lot of us. How have you kind of suggested people with younger children, the moms are in and out of the house, driving their kids somewhere, and the husband's usually working and their schedules just are parallel, and there becomes a time where you eventually kind of feel like roommates, I guess, because things with little children, are pretty intense. So how do you suggest couples connect?
I mean, the very first thing is that, like, what you're describing there is really a script that they have running inside their head. Either he's got a script running in his head that he can't get what he wants. You've got a script that all of a sudden, because we have these kids, we can't get what we want. These are just self-limiting beliefs that we all carry around with ourselves. And we need to really just sit down and say, do we want to win at life or do we want to lose at life? And personally, I like winning. I want to win on Instagram. I want to win in the book I've got coming out. I want to win at my marriage. I want to win at my career. I want to win it. I want it all. And if when you operate from that mindset and you look at your family, you look at your husband, you look at your kids, and you've won the lottery. And so let's go invest it well. Let's take care of that nest egg. Let's grow that nest egg and go out and win more. So I would say first operate from the place that everything is possible and build that image in your mind of this beautiful marriage that you want. But yeah, you're going to run into kids and stumbling blocks and, sickness. Like, if one of my kids catches a cold, then I know I'm not having sex for like a week. Yeah. It'll be 3 days and my wife is taking care of them.
That's how it works.
And then she'll get sick and then I'll get sick. And so, but we just see that as a speed bump in the road, that in your relationship, you can go over that speed bump and let your heads hit the roof of the car and bounce off, and then half a mile down the road, forget you even hit it. Or you can let those speed bumps send you off into the ditch. And I truly believe that couples, when they're rowing in the same direction and say, this is the marriage that we want, they can absolutely build it. I don't think it's helpful to put a limiting belief on yourself, which is why in my content on Instagram, you won't see me talk about how men do this and women do that. And, it just further alienates people, and it puts them in an echo chamber of affirmations. We're affirming your self-limiting belief, and I don't think we need to do that.
That's a really good point.
Like, you just have, I think that's the part where they say marriage takes work. Like, you both have to say, listen, we want to do this together. We came together because we loved each other, in the beginning, and we have to work. But it goes away sometimes.
Yeah.
It really does.
You have to work on the passion and the love.
My husband and I have been in therapy before, and it's like you have that conversation. Are we going to do this together? We have to be on the same team. So yes, I've been pissed off at you for 10 years, but we're back on the same team, and you go that way. Or
yes.
At what point do some couples, is it time really just to call it quits? Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say, like, if there's like that abuse, that emotional abuse happening, for sure there's times to call. We all need self-preservation. That's definitely really important. But I definitely think, I would want to turn over every stone first to make sure that that the key wasn't underneath it.
What about when one spouse won't do therapy? What do they do then? What if, like, the husband says, I'm not going to a therapist? Then what do they do? He's
probably smart, because I think a lot of therapists aren't really good at what they do. Then you want to be the therapist. Then you want to bring these questions in and ask him what would make him feel comfortable about going down that road of repair. What would make him feel comfortable about working on your relationship, on spending time together, on being intimate together. The other thing too, I truly think people are motivated by the stick and the carrot, and for me, I'd rather chase the carrot than run from the stick, right? So really, I think ultimately asking him, what would that carrot look like? What would this relationship look like if it was the one that made you want to show up every single day?
Going back to like needs and wants, what if I just want to lay in bed by myself, watch my housewife show, but my husband needs to have sex, or vice versa? Like, how do you just get that time?
In the middle.
Yeah, at what point?
When can you meet in the middle?
I love that question, because you're really basically saying to me that at times you want to be thoughtless, lazy, and insensitive.
Yeah. I tell him, okay, in the morning. I'll make a deal in the morning. I'm going to bed. I'll see you in the morning.
But honestly, all of us are usually thoughtless, lazy, and sensitive multiple times a day, right? So it's not that you shouldn't be allowed to, my wife, we just dropped our girls off today to school, and my wife she's crying. She's like, I just want to go into bed and watch a movie and lay in bed all day. The reality is that we all can't be on all the time. And so that shouldn't be the expectation. The expectation should be, how can I make it up to you? So if you want that, you should, if your husband's coming to you or you're going to him, and you can't give them what they want in that moment, then you got to use that lubricating language, which is just simply, I'm really not up for it, but how can I make it up to you? How can I make it more special? What could we do instead?
Scott's like,
He's like, pause.
I'm getting what I want.
But think of it though, like think of it if he knows that and my wife has done it to me. She's like, I'm not up for being intimate tonight. But she'll say something like, but tomorrow will be even better, right? So it's that lubricating language that a lot of people don't sprinkle into the relationship.
But like, does she actually talk like that and say that? I can never picture it.
I say it.
It'll be better
I'll say like,
tomorrow?
I'm tired. Like, I'll make it up to you in the morning. And then I'll do something like a text or something cool in the morning that I'm like, oh, okay.
Cool.
I don't know.
So
I'm
nice.
down.
I'm like, no, never, bye.
I think though it really helps because then I don't feel the guilt going to sleep. Like, oh, I feel bad that I turned my husband down. Just like I don't want him to not be there for me when I need him to do something. And then I'm like, okay, now I'm making it up to you. And now I know you're almost more excited because I left some suspense.
Well, I never say no. For the most part, but it's also, but I think for me, it's more like, how does he not realize like the cues? Like I am laying in bed watching a show, like don't come near me. You had the last 2 hours to do something. It's more like those cues where it's like I don't think that they realize sometimes maybe all of like the mental load that we go through all day. Like I was just downstairs cleaning dishes for an hour. It's all of that. And it's like,
You've already closed your house. That's what I always say.
I think when they're horny, Steph, and your husband's horny all the time.
So you have to communicate with him and tell him, Scott, give me 10 minutes,
like
okay?
when I tell my kids the kitchen's closed, then it's like something else
The
is
kitchen's
closed.
closed.
upstairs.
Well, it sounds like he's not reading the room the way he should be, right?
Bingo.
Yeah. But honestly, though, like what we're talking about is when you're going to disappoint your partner, whether it's, I don't want to be intimate tonight or I don't want to go out for dinner, whatever it is, you've got to give them an off-ramp for their disappointment. And I think that's what people don't do is they just slam the door shut and they don't give their partner that exit. They can't hit eject from the pain that they're feeling of that disappointment. And you got to, if you care about them and you care about their emotional well-being, you got to let them know that, you're not going to crash. There is a parachute. Just, pull the ripcord. You got to give them that hope or that belief that, tomorrow the sun's going to come up again.
Something else is coming up in 7 years.
I wanted to kind of switch gears. I know we want to ask some questions from our listeners too, but in a lot of marriages, there's a lot of disconnect and problems that arise about how to discipline and raise our children. We're raised differently ourselves. And I know, especially in my own marriage, how we choose to discipline our children when they've done something wrong, most often becomes an argument between the two of us and causes resentment. How do you help couples navigate through that?
I typically ask women to admit that their style of parenting is wrong and that men have the skinny on it. No, I'm just joking.
The Zoom is ended.
We gotta go, Jonathan.
End chat. Where's that?
It's a good question because I experienced that in my own marriage where, I trained as a marriage and family therapist. I'm not a parenting expert. And my wife says, how can you say that? You say some of the dumbest shit to our girls that I can't believe that my therapist husband would say this. The reality is that it's about the way you approach it. And I think one of the challenges that I think a lot of men face is I feel when I'm parenting, I feel like there's someone standing over my shoulder watching me parent. I don't think women have that same experience. I don't think mothers have a husband that's, right over top of them, monitoring their every word and their every decision. So I think what you need to do is really just cultivate, build that shared vision of what's important to us. What are the values that we want to impart on our children? I think you're probably talking about discipline. It's probably the differences in your styles of discipline that are probably leading to the greatest sense of disconnection. And the reality is that there's, that word safe gets thrown around. I've heard the word safe now in 2025 way more than I did back when I was in the 80s. I was born in the 70s. And so, back when we were growing up, no one said the word safe, just it didn't get spoken of. But there's this real push-pull between, a woman today wants to, be safe, but then there's this desire for men to build resilience in children. And I see that in my own in my own marriage, and then how I parent my girls, you've really got to spend time talking about what are the values that you guys want to impart on your kids and get on the same page, and do that outside of earshot of the children. Don't do it in the moment. I think what happens is it gets done in the moment, and that's where the greatest disconnect happens. So
Now you're fighting with your kids and your husband, and at that point, I just want to lock myself in the room and say, "Everybody go."
Speaking from experience, when I make a mistake with my girls, I always hear about it. But when my wife makes a mistake about, parenting, it's hardly ever spoken of, right? And so I think it's a common theme that a lot of men walk around walking on eggshells about how they're parenting, and either then it pushes them in a corner to not want to parent and check out, or if they push back, then it leads to that disconnect, right? So there's got to be probably a bit more open-mindedness from women towards their partners on letting him make mistakes so that he can learn and grow and learn from them. And ultimately, they're his relationships anyway. So what he does with his kids, he's going to one that pays the piper down the road.
Right, that's really true.
That is true. Okay, I have a question. It kind of goes along this lines, but what if you and your spouse don't agree on something like major, like medication for your children, vaccinations for your children? How do you, or what would you suggest to either meet in the middle? Like, when do you hold your ground? When do you say, okay, let's table this and regroup, or I just need any kind of advice with that?
I think probably a good rule of thumb would be to defer to the parent that has the bigger issue with the topic at hand, because they're obviously far more emotionally involved and enmeshed in the question at hand. And so you got to think of it. We all exist on 3 planes of existence: the physical, the mental, and the emotional. And so if he's debating you, then he's probably down in that intellectual, that mental plane of existence, whereas you're up in that spiritual, emotion. It's impacting you emotionally. And so in that instance, I always tell people to defer to the person that, is more emotionally invested in the question, right? So would be a good rule of thumb, I'd say.
Jonathan, okay, so our listener asked about trust and infidelity, and with social media being so big and people have access to such easy reach, when is it inappropriate if a husband is talking to, someone from high school or college or their past? It's oh, they just reached out. Where is it inappropriate, or a stranger? Is it inappropriate if the wife doesn't know them and they when is it where's the boundary? Yeah.
For me, that's it's a pretty clear boundary. My wife would be involved and engaged in every conversation, or could be if she wanted to be. So whatever I'm going to say to another woman, I would absolutely want my wife to be able to read word for word, access to my DMs, which my wife has full access to everything in my life. If that wasn't the case, then it's probably crossing the line.
Is it wrong to ask a husband or a partner or whatever to unfollow someone?
Not at all. Not in my opinion. Yeah. I have no issue with that whatsoever.
Even if you're being petty?
She's not that hot, but still unfollow her?
Exactly.
I think it boils down to the message. There's really only one woman I'm friends with, and that's my wife. Every other woman on the planet I'm an acquaintance with. Have no interest in cultivating friendships outside of my wife. If we had a couple friend and they broke up, I would no longer be connected to that woman in any way, shape, or form, beyond through my wife, I guess, is probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, it's a very good point. I think an important point for a lot of our listeners,
Yeah, no, for sure.
It's a great question.
And then another question was, you can tell your husband, I really just want you to come lay in bed with me and not go play video games. But it's why do I have to tell them? You're why do you have to tell them? Shouldn't they know? I want you to take me on a date, but you don't. I want to go on a date with you, but why don't they plan it? Why do we always have to be the social calendar?
It becomes a second job.
Yeah, it's
and then the excuse is always well, you have everyone's phone number,
yes,
so you can text them.
Or why am I driving? Why aren't you driving?
Yes.
It sounds naggy, but it's like, how many times do you have to ask someone for them to just like do it? Like now it's a need. Now I need you to fucking try.
She's fired up.
She's fired up. She's on one.
Is this a listener or you?
It's a listener.
It's your diary.
The person that's listening to them.
It's Danielle Marco spelled backwards.
She starts off as a listener and then she's like, and I am tired.
No, the listener's name is Marco Danielle. That's coincidence.
Anyways, okay, back to the answer.
You're talking about a man that doesn't want to cherish his wife and doesn't want to send a message to his wife that she's, the most important person in the world to him. And I can't imagine, not, it's kind of like a learned helplessness, and I think that men do well to understand that when you stop stoking the fire and putting a new log on, eventually that fire is going to burn out. And, unless his long-term plan is, a lonely single life in a bachelor basement apartment, he would be wise to, pull his socks up and figure out a way to cherish his wife and let her know that she's important to him. You really can't. He's got to be self-motivated to do that from within. But then, there could be resentments that he's harboring towards her that maybe she's been closing the door for a long time for a lot of different reasons.
I'll let the listener know.
I do kind of agree with you though, because my husband has a hard time making a date for him, just him and I. He's great with a social calendar, but him and I hard. But the days that he takes me and him out are the days that he's the happiest in bed. So it's like what you're saying, like he's meeting my needs, so I'm meeting his needs. So can you work on that partnership better of my needs and your needs before they become wants?
Well, can't he know that, like, hello, 1 + 1 = 2? Why do you have to keep saying hello?
You guys, remember what we said today? My husband has ADHD. So
It's not his fault.
There's nothing there.
There's probably a better way for you to
Your
go
listener.
about. The listener to go about asking for those things. Like the way the listener is asking is probably naggy or annoying to him. You know what I mean? In his eyes.
Because the listener.
He's saying it's not about her needing to ask.
No, it
he
isn't.
should know
Of course
to
he-
just cherish his wife and want to make a
do
date.
all of your
and-
husbands plan dates?
No.
So Scott's biggest.
But we did just communicate how
That's what I'm
that
saying.
made me feel. Like, hey, when you don't do that, like you can't, same thing, you're as social as can be, and you can figure out.
They have no problem all meeting each other for
Right,
dinner.
exactly. But then the minute that it comes to me, I'm like, he's like, well, you know the nanny's number. Yeah, I know the nanny's number. All you have to do is say, even like, let's say season tickets for something. Last season, he's like, we have season tickets, pick a day. I'm like, I don't want to even go. So like, I'm not gonna pick a day for you to take me, no. But if he's like, hey, we're gonna go to this game on this day, get the nanny.
you make
then
plans?
then
Fine,
I'd
I'm
be like,
excited for it,
yes,
yeah.
exactly.
It doesn't become
wanna
my
take
chore to take you where you want to go, and you're taking me.
Exactly.
Like, I wanna take you on
Tell
a-
the listener.
Yeah, like I want to take you to dinner tonight, 7:30. Like,
Yes.
is there any way we can make that happen?
Boom.
Scott sends calendar invites.
That's nice.
Well, that's even
nice.
good. That's his way
Scott
of
sends calendar
communicating.
invites. We have the opposite problem in my marriage. He says, I am always with my friends. I am
And
always
yeah,
with my
she's like,
kids.
sorry,
I'm
now I have a
He's
lunch.
like, can you just go out with me once a week, like alone, without anyone else? Like, that's what he wants and needs. He'll send me a calendar invite for at least lunch once a week. But if it was up to my husband, truthfully, listen, and I put out the least out of anyone probably in this, we would go out 3 times a week alone. Without friends, without anyone, he'd rather spend time with me. alone.
Maybe we
You
need to
are the
stop
problem.
having sex, you guys. We need to stop having sex, and then they'll want to take us on dates.
But this is a long-running
Because Scott's
problem.
like 1 + 1 = 2. Ours haven't figured that out yet.
Exactly. He's like, Jordyn, you love to lunch. Let me take you to lunch.
Our executive producer, Glenn, has a question for you.
I have a question for you, Jonathan, because I hear everything you're saying, but it sounds like your perspective is very much that the man leads in all facets of the relationship. And I just want to know, is that your POV on this? Do you think that is, and I agree with you, I think that men should lead, but is that your perspective? I think like the world is changing and the gender dynamics are not always the same for certain women. So I don't know, is that your point of view, or am I kind of misreading that.
No, I mean, personally, I would say I choose to lead in my marriage, but there's domains in which I lead in my marriage. I drive all our financial decisions. I drive, the bigger picture, safety, for example. My wife would let my kids get into a car with someone who's had a car accident before. That's a hard no for me. And so I'll take leadership in that. I coach a lot of men, obviously, and women too, but you tend to stay in your lane. When you're a man, you tend to attract more, male clients. I believe women are simple creatures. They're far less complicated than they're made out to be. When you wake up every single day and the number one mission in your mind is to cherish your wife, you get literally everything that you want. And we have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old, and my wife has been doing bedtimes for 12 years, almost 13 now. If she said that we're going to be intimate, let's say after dinner, she said, I'm looking forward to tonight. And it's been a particularly long bedtime, and the girls stay asleep or take a really long time to get to sleep. She can come out of that room at midnight and we'll still have sex. Right? Whereas I know so many women to be like, screw you, I'm going straight to bed. And I think that comes from the amount of love, energy, and effort I pour into my wife and in my relationship. And so it comes back to you. So I think a man's a fool not to do that, if you ask me.
Jonathan, I have a question about finances. This is not me, guys. Okay?
No, this is really a listener. This is really
actually
a listener.
How people do finances obviously in a different way. Do you feel that every married couple should have one joint account? Like, is it weird to have, I see on my Venmo, like, wives paying their husbands for like their mortgage or like gas
Groceries,
bill or
yeah.
grocery bill, whatever. How do you feel about, is it just like a personal thing, do you think, or is it just a controlling thing? I don't know.
Yeah, when you get down to that nitty gritty, I think you're relating to one another in one of the lowest forms of human connection. And I don't think it's a deeper partnership, and you're probably building walls around that. So on a personal level, I gave my wife I put her on my credit card. We weren't even engaged, and I already put her on my credit card. So it's a personal decision. I also think culturally it's hard too, because in the US, a lot of people have gotten the message that you got to enter into a marriage with a prenup, and it's a challenge there. Personally, I'm all in on my wife. I think when you've made that decision in your head, it gets a lot easier to just put everything together. That's a really tough question, I would say that, it's going to be personal. I think you're kind of walking, a tightrope, when you're trying to build walls and boundaries around certain parts of who you are in your relationship. If you can make it work, great. But yeah, I don't know. From me, no, I wouldn't ever do that, but I don't want to make people feel bad if they choose that.
If you're splitting your rent or mortgage, aren't you roommates?
I would think so. I don't know.
Or I have a question more of the lines of, if that was the case, like a couple was sharing things and having complete separate bank accounts, and let's say the wife is really interested in wanting that deeper and knowing that maybe my husband is saying no because they don't want to build that trust, or they actually don't trust me. At what point are they going to keep trying to say okay, let's do joint bank accounts, and he keeps saying no? When should she say, all right, well, then it is the bigger picture of he actually doesn't trust me, and maybe we have all these little other issues, but that's the biggest. When should that red flag just completely?
For me, the boundary in and of itself is a red flag that you would want to explore and really talk about what's going on here and why is this the case? Why are we trying to separate and have space or distance between ourselves, right? So again, that's a very personal question. I can't really relate to it, but I know it happens all the time. So it's kind of a lane that I don't really step into. I kind of let couples decide for themselves. And for some, it works really well to have separate bank accounts.
Have you ever had a man client come to you and really just hold firm with, I just don't want to do this? Like, what advice have you given them to?
Oh yeah, I mean, I had one woman who, she wasn't engaged. Her husband, he became a professional, got a job in the U.S., moved to the U.S., and he was asking her to quit her job, move to the U.S., get married, have a prenup, and he wouldn't even get on a plane home to go visit her in between while she was trying to find a job, right? So, I mean, is that a great marriage to enter into? Again, I was working with her as a therapist because she was licensed where I was licensed to practice, and that's what she came to me for. So I didn't, when you're doing therapy versus coaching, you're doing wildly different work. As a therapist, I'm not going to coach her and say, this is, maybe a red flag. I may ask her leading questions like, how do you feel about that? Do you think it's a good thing and whatnot? So, but yeah, that's a tough one. I don't know. Is there other, skeletons in the closet that he's not, signaling or coming clean about? So these are good questions to ask yourself for sure. I think a woman, on that note though, I would say that women really should call men to a higher standard, at least in this areas of honesty, transparency, and loyalty, fidelity. And I think I think they see so many more red flags that they should probably trust their instinct and trust their gut a little bit more. And I think a lot of men need to grow up and mature and know how to treat a woman. So.
Oh, I love that. Does anyone have any other questions before?
You talk a lot on your Instagram about your blind spots or a man's blind spots. Can you elaborate?
What does that mean?
Yeah, I'm curious to what you.
I mean, those are the mistakes that we make and that we show up. Like, for example, I've struggled with anger my entire life. I had an incredibly traumatic, neglectful, emotionally, physically abusive childhood, and anger was one that was a form of expression that was normalized in life, and I had to unlearn that, and now in our home, my one daughter will hit her sister, and I'll slightly elevate my tone of voice, and then all of a sudden it's, oh, daddy's angry. And so I'm constantly trying to improve that. So that's one of my blind spots, one of the areas that I continue to try to show up and make sure that my children remain connected to me when I'm disciplining them. My wife, on the other hand, she has an incredibly difficult time being self-reflective and doesn't want to admit that she's wrong. And I think
Who does, Jonathan? Who does?
Welcome to the women's club.
Well, she didn't have she had a good relationship with her dad, but she always felt like she walked on eggshells and that he would withhold his love and affection for her if she made a mistake. And so she kind of grew up thinking that she wasn't good enough. And so that's an issue that she's struggled with that's impacted our relationship for years and years. And that's, her blind spot that, she has a difficult time seeing when she's disappointed me and she doesn't want to admit it. And, we got to talk through it and, until she finally comes around. So I think it's about, we all come into this imperfect, but what is perfect is your relationship, and you can cultivate patience for each other and understanding. So that's where I mean by we all have blind spots. We all have areas. For other people, it's alcohol. For other people, it's, overcoming ADHD or whatever it is. And it's not meant to make them feel bad like there's something wrong with them, but it's just areas that we're all trying to work on, personal issues that we're trying to grow beyond, that we bring into our relationship and that affect our relationship. But we need to cultivate that grace and that patience while our partner's working through those.
Do you openly talk about that with your wife, and this is what I'm still working on? Do you tell her what she needs to work on, or do you allow her to kind of figure it out on her own and then you come together?
All the time. I tell her all the time, but I try to do it in a way that I'm not shaming her, that's for sure. But yeah, no, there's always moments when we talk about her unwillingness to see her role and when she's made a mistake. For example, my wife, so we live in Central America, and I've got 2 credit cards that work really well, 2 visas, and I got a Platinum American Express. And one day my wife took my wallet thinking it was her credit cards, and she started tapping the machine with my 2 Visas, and they got blocked because she was entering the wrong, password to use those cards. And so now I find myself walking around in Central America with 2 kids, and all I have is an Amex that no one accepts because only half the world accepts them. And then I call the bank, and they're like, you got to go back to your branch, walk in physically to the branch and reset your PIN. I'm like, well, that's not happening anytime soon. Well, it takes her a while to catch up or get up to speed to understand how she, kind of made a mistake. So yeah, you got to have patience for that. And
Yeah. I think, admitting you're wrong when you're wrong and giving the other person grace, it's also important. Jonathan, thank you so much for being here today and all your advice and tips. We are going to use these.
Our listeners are really going to love it.
Our
Thank you so much.
are really going to love it. Can you tell everyone about how they can follow you and what
And your book.
in your book?
yeah, of course. You can come follow me over on Instagram. It's Relationships with Jonathan, and I've got a YouTube channel as well that we're going to start putting out daily videos as well. So you can find me Relationships with Jonathan on YouTube as well. The book, I haven't really kind of formally announced it on my Instagram. But I guess back in April, I was just scanning the spam folder of my Gmail, and I found this publisher from major U.S. publisher reached out and said, have you ever thought about writing a book? And the next day he had a book deal in the offer, like in an email to me. And yeah, we signed that beginning of May, and now I'm writing a book. And so that should come out. It doesn't come out. It takes a while. I think it's coming out in some middle of 2026. But if people want to get on the list to get early access to that, I have a weekly newsletter I send out every single Monday. So you can find the link either on my Instagram page or on any one of the YouTube videos that I have. You can go down, grab that link and sign up for the newsletter, and you get a newsletter from me every Monday. And then I'll announce when the book's coming out and stuff like that on there. So,
Jonathan, thank you so much again for being here. To all our listeners, remember to follow at Relationships with Jonathan, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
thanks so much. Bye now.
Well, that was interesting. That was a different point of view, not hearing from a woman.
I think the men will like this one.
Yeah, I mean.
Well, maybe they can actually see now our frustration, and maybe they can reach out to the doctor and get some help.
He basically said, you have to cherish your wife, or you're not going to be fucking happy. So.
Yeah.
He also said everyone has to put out. So,
But if your husband
I got some
cherishes
work
you,
to
then
do.
you feel sexy, right? If he's cherishing you and putting you on this pedestal and telling you you're beautiful and you are helping with the kids and you do run this house wonderfully,
Then I'm gonna give it up
then
a
I'm
few
gonna give
times.
it up, right? Okay, now you're sexy to me too because you're making me feel good.
I mean, Jordyn has to go on those lunch dates.
I'm gonna.
You're the only one that gets a calendar invite, and it says no.
No, I don't. Sometimes I have conflicting events.
Other lunches with other
lunches.
She is a lady who I saw her having lunch on Friday, and she had 2 lunches to go to
That doesn't
on
happen
Friday.
Often. I
double
double booked
booked
my
her
lunch
lunch.
Friday.
She's really a lady.
I love my husband. I love my friends so much so. But I do. I need to.
Jordyn, we need to give you something else to lunch on.
I need a. That's lunch on.
We're not trying to munch.
Yeah, you're not trying to munch. You're trying to suck, not munch.
Guys.
Well,
So just the 2 F's. Feed them and fuck them. And then right, Alexxa, you can just get anything you want.
That's our new motto for the show. Feed them and fuck them.
Okay, so you guys, I've been telling you that. There's 2 ways to a man's heart. That's it. Time in and they're dead. My husband, my mom taught me.
All right, let's play our game.
I forgot about our game. Oh, God.
5 fingers.
She's losing.
I didn't look.
Never have I ever forgotten an anniversary or birthday of a husband, spouse.
Anniversary. We both do.
Our wedding book is wrong. The date's completely wrong.
What do you mean?
Like our wedding album, it's wrong.
printed wrong?
No, it's printed wrong.
And you never got a new one?
You do
No. We actually just noticed it a year ago.
Tape over it.
Tape.
Wait out.
Okay. Never have I ever sent a cringy good morning text. Not cringy. I don't know. Okay. Never have I fallen asleep mid-argument.
Oh, no way.
Mid-argument?
I gotta win.
I'll just say I'm not talking
Hell no,
about
I
this
would
anymore,
never
and I'll
stop
go to
until,
sleep.
yeah.
Never
I'm not
have I
talking
lied about my husband's cooking. Well, my husband doesn't cook, so.
Mine's a
My
good
husband
joke.
Nothing to
cooks.
lie
My
about.
husband cooks, but
But
I
I-
don't lie about it.
It's
Better than what I'm cooking, because that's nothing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I told him one time that his chicken wasn't cooked all the way. He lost his shit, but I didn't say anything bad.
Never have I written a love letter to my husband.
Ew, gross.
Never
Ever
wrote-
a love letter? I have.
I have
during my
two.
vows.
I
that's
have
it.
two. I've written nice
Love
letters.
letter?
Apologies.
I've written apologies. That's not a love letter.
That's not a love letter. Apology is not a love
Put
letter.
that finger back on. There's no apology, Jordan. Okay, never have I planned a surprise date. I have.
I have.
Never have I ever
I did.
slow danced in the kitchen.
Ew.
I have.
I have. I don't know why, but I definitely have.
Never have I ever sent a spicy text to the wrong person.
Oh, God.
Probably when
That
I
was
was
really
dating.
bad.
Never have I stayed in a relationship I knew wasn't right.
Oh,
No.
all my 30s.
Never have I ever said I love you during sex.
You've never said I love you
I've
during
never-
sex?
I've
I
never
have.
said sex?
Oh, I have.
I feel like I have for
I don't
sure.
think I have.
I've never said that.
I lost. But
In the middle of sex?
You're like, oh, I love you.
No, I'm just saying, like, when you make, there's a difference between, like, fucking and making love. Like, you've never said
No, but you're really like,
I'm not saying maybe, like, now.
No,
but, like,
actually,
definitely
like I
at the
fucking
beginning.
love you. This feels real good. Yeah, that has definitely happened a few times. Okay.
Ashley lost. Okay, Ashley, spill the pudding or dare to dip?
I feel like we haven't dared to dip in a while.
Yes, I hope it's a
dip,
prank
girl.
call.
I really hope it's not something crazy.
I hope it's a prank call.
Oh, this is perfect for you.
Oh.
Sext your husband and see how he responds.
Oh yes, this
yeah.
is gonna be good.
What are you gonna say?
Okay, I'm gonna write to him. Now I'm gonna do an eggplant emoji with some rain after. Get it?
oh, that's
Get it?
the semen.
Yes.
Oh, wait, hang on.
Squirt.
Yeah, there we go. See, like that?
Yeah.
I want
And then you add it.
tonight. Okay.
Okay. And
Now
then
give it 5 seconds so it like delivers, and then I'm gonna send him a peaches. Like,
So like the eggplant goes in the butt?
Like in your butt?
no, not like that. Okay, fine.
Okay, that's only an anniversary. It's not happening this
The
week.
saddest part
on a
is
Monday?
if I said this to Scott, he'd be like, so you want me to go to the market and buy an eggplant and water
Water
and
down.
Okay, you want to know what he said?
Yes.
You're gonna die.
What?
Coming.
He sure
Yeah,
is.
theater near you.
Ashley and Barry.
All right.
I love it.
This was so fun, guys.
So fun. Remember to like and subscribe. And we will see you guys next time. Cheers. Cheers.
To more sex, to cherished wives, and
For our
no video
listeners.
games.
More than high fives.
Cheers.